Growing up as a kid, yeah. All a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from.
How good will the Pittsburgh Steelers offense be this upcoming NFL season in 2020? So when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers offense last year, it was a complete disaster. And you don't even have to look at the numbers to understand how bad Pittsburgh's offense was once Ben Roethlisberger went down with that injury. I mean, they struggled to move the ball down the field. They struggled to score inside the red zone. And they struggled to throw the football. They didn't really have all that much success running the football as well. And they struggled on third downs as well. So basically, the whole entire offense struggled. But one thing that this offense did do in 2019 was in big moments, when they needed a big play, they were able to get those. So now, how does Pittsburgh's offense rebound from a lackluster 2019 season? Well, let's start off with the positive. You get back Ben Roethlisberger. Now, Ben Roethlisberger was injured for basically the whole entire 2019 season. He basically only played a couple of games. And in those couple of games, he wasn't all that great. And a lot of people are already calling him washed up. Now, when it comes to Ben Roethlisberger being washed up, I wouldn't necessarily agree with him being washed up. Now, is he a quarterback that has regressed over the last few years? Yes, he has. On the road, he hasn't really been the same Ben Roethlisberger we've been accustomed to when he initially started out. But I mean, every quarterback has regressed in some way or fashion. Tom Brady has regressed. Drew Brees has regressed. Aaron Rodgers has regressed a little bit. So, I mean, every quarterback that's up there in age has kind of regressed. But I don't think Big Ben is to the point of regression that he's just going to be absolutely terrible. Big Ben is going to be an upgrade from Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges. Now, when you ask any non-Pittsburgh Steelers fan how they feel about Ben Roethlisberger coming back, they say he's not that big of an upgrade. Then I asked them, okay, if you don't view Ben Roethlisberger as that big of an upgrade, do you at least think he's better than Devlin Hodges or Mason Rudolph? And they say, yeah. I'm not saying he's not as bad as those guys, but I'm just saying he's not that big of an upgrade. But regardless of the fact, Ben Roethlisberger coming back, whether you want to admit it or not, is going to be an upgrade to the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Because when you look at Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges was more accurate than Mason Rudolph, but he didn't have that big of an arm. And Mason Rudolph had the cannon for an arm, but he wasn't accurate at all. So when you look at this Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation, it all starts with Ben Roethlisberger. Now, with him coming back, that's going to open up the running game with James Conner, Anthony McFarland, Benny Snell, and Jalen Samuel. Now, when you look at James Conner is another guy that battled injuries last season. Now, when he did play, he was pretty productive. But the thing with James Conner is that he just can't stay on the field and stay healthy. Now, you got Jalen Samuels, who I think is probably going to end up being replaced for RB2 with either Benny Snell or Anthony McFarland. I like Benny Snell a lot. Benny Snell really came on strong for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the later part of the season when he started getting more carries, especially inside the red zone. He was pretty much Pittsburgh's best option when it got inside the 20. Now, the wide receiver position is one of the best wide receiver groups we've seen out of the Pittsburgh Steelers since maybe 2014 and 2015. You got Juju Smith-Schuster, who missed a lot of games as well last season. Also didn't really have that stellar of a season. Ben Roethlisberger coming back is going to help him out. Then you also got Deontay Johnson, who a lot of people are saying that could potentially be the next Antonio Brown or the next superstar for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the receiver position. He could potentially beat Juju out for that number one receiver spot, and Juju could end up going back to slot. Now, you also got James Washington. Now, James Washington was a guy who a lot of people didn't really talk about last year for Pittsburgh, even though he made some of the biggest plays of the season for the Steelers last year. He had some very amazing catches and some very clutch catches for the Steelers last season. Then you also got Deon Cain, who I really like a lot. Then you got rookie out of Notre Dame, Chase Claypool. So, I mean, this Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiving core is stacked. Then at the tight end, you got Eric Ebron, who Eric Ebron is the athletic tight end that the Pittsburgh Steelers have been looking for a very long time. The last time we seen a tight end of this athleticism at the tight end position for the Steelers was a couple of years back when they picked up Ladarius Green in free agency. Now, for those of you guys who don't remember who Ladarius Green is, Ladarius Green, prior to playing for the Steelers, played for the LA Chargers. Well, when he got to Pittsburgh, he didn't really play that many games because he was always injured. He had like a lot of concussion issues and things like that. But when he was on the field, he was highly productive. He made a lot of big plays. And when you look at Eric Ebron, the last time Eric Ebron played with a great quarterback, or at least a good quarterback, was Andrew Luck. And when that happened, he ended up being the All-Pro. So imagine what's going to happen with Ben Roethlisberger throwing him the ball. So when you look at the Steelers offense, I mean, it is a lot of optimism. It's a lot of talent. It's a lot of young talent, and they still have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Now, a lot of people try to downplay the offensive line because people say the Steelers' offensive line is getting old. Just because you have an old offensive line doesn't mean it's going to be terrible. I'm always a guy who likes to have experience over youth, because experience and IQ takes you a long way. I.e., look at the New England Patriots. They've had one of the oldest rosters in the NFL for a while, and they don't really look to miss a beat. So IQ, I will always choose IQ over youth and athleticism any day. Now, a guy who really needs to step up if the Steelers offense wants to go to the next level is offensive coordinator Randy Fichtner. Now, Randy Fichtner definitely is on the hot seat going into the season. He has to have a big year calling plays for the Steelers, because last year, although Ben Roethlisberger was injured, I mean, a lot of the play calling was really questionable. So Randy Fichtner is the guy who has to step up in terms of the play calling for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or he could end up getting replaced. Now, how good would the Steelers offense be? I think the Steelers offense, I'm not expecting the Steelers offense to be top 10. It might not even be top 15. I think realistically, this is a Steelers offense that probably would be between 16th and 17th in the NFL. They're going to have some flashes. They're going to have some big games when they absolutely go crazy, but I'm not expecting Ben Roethlisberger to come back and be what he once was. Although he did come back from a couple of injuries in the past, he is a little bit up there in age, so I'm not really expecting Ben Roethlisberger to have an explosive season or anything like that. I'm just expecting Ben Roethlisberger to be good enough to come in there, make the throws that were not able to be made by Mason Rudolph and Devlin Doug Hodges, and win games for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what I'm expecting out of Ben Roethlisberger. The Steelers don't need Big Ben to be a top 5 quarterback or a top 10 quarterback or elite quarterback. They just need Big Ben to stay healthy, go in there and make the throws that needs to be made, and go in there and win games, which is something that Big Ben has been able to do without really throughout his career. He's been really good at making plays. And I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, prior to his injury, was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, he has had one of the best 4-year spans of any quarterback in the NFL playing right now. So, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger being washed up, I don't really know where a lot of people are getting that from. Now, am I being a little bit conservative in my expectations for Ben Roethlisberger coming off that injury? Yes, I am. But at best, I think the Steelers could have a top 12 offense. At worst, I think we could see the Steelers offense ranked between 19th and 20th. But overall, if I'm being realistic, I think my medium for my realistic expectations for the Steelers offense this season is probably going to be either 16th or 17th in the NFL, which is pretty much in the middle of the pack. Now, I mean, the Steelers, they're going to be better on third down. They're going to be better moving the ball down the field, because last year, the only time the Steelers really got inside the red zone was when their defense was able to force a turnover and put their offense inside opponents' 20-yard line or inside opponent's territory. And when they got inside the red zone and they were set up by turnovers by the defense, they didn't really do much with it besides put 3 points on the board. So the Steelers scoring in the red zone was a rarity last year. Most of the time when the Steelers scored, it was basically based off big plays and things like that. So overall, I think the Steelers offense is going to be in the middle of the pack, and this is coming from a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And maybe at best they have a top 12 offense, but I'm taking more of a conservative approach. I'm not really having like mind-boggling expectations for this offense. If this offense ends up exceeding my expectations, it ends up being a top 10 offense, and it ends up being a top 10 offense. If they end up having one of the best offenses in the NFL, they end up having one of the best offenses in the NFL. But I think the Steelers have a middle-of-the-pack offense, and at best, they could have a top 12 offense, and at worst, their offense ends up being 20th in the NFL. So this is it for my expectations of how good I feel the Pittsburgh Steelers offense will be this upcoming NFL season. Let me know what you guys think about the Steelers offense heading into the 2020 NFL season. Make sure that you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.